The recently released 2024 CAS Benchmark Survey shows strong growth in client advisory services, outpacing the accounting profession's overall growth. I'm here today with Richard Korn, Director of Product at Bill, to discuss how this growth and other factors are possible. Richard, thank you for being here with me.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having a chance to chat again.
Sure. So we're going to reference some of the benchmark survey results, the insights that came out of it, but I'm going to do it in a kind of a backwards sort of way, right? So we're just going to talk about some general stuff, and then I'll refer to some statistics and stuff as we come along. So technology plays a major role in CAS. We all know that. The use of bill pay and spend management are the two foundational service offerings that we see in CAS all the time. By getting those offerings dialed in, firms can move to automating other client processes that unlock profitability and scalability in CAS. I think we all pretty much know that. As firms seek to capture the upward momentum of CAS, they will make several strategic decisions. So what their vision looks like, what clients they're going to work with, potentially how they're going to staff it, what kind of pricing they're going to have, what technology are they going to use, what's their go-to-market. So that's to name a few of the decisions they're going to have to make. So Richard, Bill is really well positioned to help firms when it comes to technology and optimizing their processes with foundational services like bill pay. So automation is an integral part of that optimization. What do you see on the horizon when it comes to automation within firms?
Yeah, I mean, like we've been talking about for a number of years, we're seeing the CAS segment grow so much. So a good kind of top line metric, I think, to track is as CAS becomes a larger share of your total firm's revenue, you want to watch the margins in that business. You should see expansion as you move up. If your staffing is going up at the same rate as your client acquisition, you probably have a good reason to dive deeper into how the staff is doing the work, because every chance you get, you want to try more about automation. Right now, Bill, we have an outstanding AP product. We have layered in spend and expense, which for many firms is still a new idea, the way that you can manage corporate credit cards, the way you can do spend entitlements, and really start to move that. We'll talk about in a minute, I'm sure, the idea of the forecasting and the insights, business insights being a big piece that monetizes CAS so well. So the more you go into those staff-specific workflows, you can understand if your firm is becoming more efficient. And I would say one more place that is very popular right now that we're going to see a huge advancement in, I think, in the next 2 to 3 years is AI agents. So we all talked about last year about generative AI and, it can write emails for you. Those are all nice tools. They definitely provide some leverage. But now let's go one step further. If we all remember back to like 2015, we talked about robotic process automation, RPA. Well, an AI agent is kind of like RPA, but without having to do any of the training yourself. You don't have to go around and map UI screens or depend on software providers to not change their UI. An AI agent really is sort of like a human in that it can read a regular user interface with all of its strange nuances and interpret how to complete a task. So, for the firms that are early in their CAS journey, let's talk about AP, spend and expense, those workflows. Let's get them off of paper. The more forward-thinking firms, let's talk about what an AI agent could do. Maybe it's just one workflow. Maybe it's just processing a bill, or maybe it's just reading a bill that for whatever reason you have physically on your desk, right? Get an AI agent doing that. And so there's kind of two ways to think about how firms should be moving toward that automation.
That is great information. I know I've heard about AI agents, but maybe not in as much detail. So it's interesting to hear how that is progressing in the technology pieces. So another comment in the benchmark survey results, 50% of the firms agreed or strongly agreed that their CAS practice is delivering business insights, which you just mentioned when we were chatting about the AI agents, right? They're delivering that business insights expertise needed to be valuable to their clients. But the interesting thing is only 43% of the firms are showing more than 10% of the revenue allocated to business insights, either as a single service or as a bundled offering, which kind of makes you step back and pause, right? So it's like, are they really actually delivering business insights if they're not really allocating any revenue to it? So, I think that's one of the things that we think about when we're talking about technology and automating that technology, and how that can provide like analysis and visualization data that they can use inside of their practices with the clients that they're working with. So Richard, from your perspective, what are the biggest technology or automation challenges firms face in scaling and monetizing their business insights services? Like, how does Bill help solve some of those challenges?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think it comes down to probably three things you want to think about when you're looking at the business insights. There could be some element of not attributing revenue to business insights because you're doing that packaged pricing. We think about the maturity model. One of the insights in the report was talking about the shift away from time and materials billing, quote unquote, into a packaged service offering. So if you are not, so to speak, building a menu of offerings, if it's just level 1, 2, and 3, and it doesn't break out part of its AP and payroll, part of its spend and expense, part of its business insights, you're probably going to lose that visibility. So even if your customers don't see those discrete elements as a pricing option, you can still keep time cards, right? Even if not billing by the hour, you can still understand where your staff are spending time, so you can allocate that revenue accordingly. So I think, to me, 10% seems so low. I'd wonder how firms are tracking it, and I'd encourage firms to really look carefully at the way they're coding that time to understand what's happening there, because it could be contributing to a ton of expense of hours when you have all these requests for insights from your clients, and they're going to be industry specific requests. They're going to be a lot of Excel manipulation. So again, back to that idea of let's look at the breakdown of hours spent. So that's one thing I would think about. Separately, part two would be, your clients, you understand what kind of questions they're asking. So if you can standardize those questions by, let's say, industry, so that your staff accountants understand industry A needs these 10 business insights, industry B, construction versus healthcare, professional services versus real estate, dramatically different insights, right? That, if you standardize that, then you're going to really be able to provide those better insights. And then 3, the technology partners, like you mentioned, Bill, we have a very powerful insights and forecasting offering that brings in not just all of your spend and expense and AP data, but also your entire GL. So it's kind of a matter of what level of depth you're looking for. Is it a full 13-week cash flow forecast, or is it just those top 5, top 10 insights about profit margin or project profitability or vendor benchmarking? All of those things can go into your standardization. That's how I think about that statistic and how to sort of apply it to your firm.
Yeah, that's great. I'm going to switch gears a little bit, where we're going to talk about technology, which we've kind of been talking about all along, but kind of more in a focused perspective. So we also know from the benchmark survey that only 51% of respondents to the survey strongly agree that their firm is committed to continuous investment in technology, which kind of shocks me, but is sort of
understandable. I'm a little disheartened. Like, oh
I
no.
know, right? I think we live in the CAS world. So CAS is so technology oriented that it seems like, it should be 100%. If you're talking firm-wide, maybe the 51%, but this was a CAS benchmark survey. So that did shock me a little bit. But I do think it's a sticking point for firms, right? It's a commitment. They have to think about, what they want to automate, the technology, the forefront, the innovation that they need in order to gain the efficiencies. But if we go one step further with that, technology creates capabilities that even the most time-intensive manual processes couldn't produce, right? So we also know that in the survey that top performing firms are more likely to partner with software vendors to provide resources and tools to gain efficiency and streamline CAS processes and automate recurring processes. So what is Bill doing to stay in the forefront of innovation for firms to encourage better strategy and investment in technology?
Yeah, let me take that in 2 parts. Let me first talk about the 51% statistic, then we'll come back to Bill. So Perfect. When I hear that, like you said, a little bit of an alarm bell goes off. I think there's probably 2 ways that stats coming together. Either respondents are thinking about their firm as a whole and not just their CAS practice, which I know it's a CAS only survey, but sometimes you kind of mix those things together. And it's easy to get into the realm of same as last year, it worked last year, let's keep the business moving, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if you're trying to achieve a goal, whether it's a margin goal or a growth goal, a private equity goal, whatever the case may be, you really cannot afford to answer this question as you are not continually investing in technology. It might be tempting to say, well, we picked the best one and now we're set. as we just talked about before, every year there's something new happening in tech, and maybe it's the same baseline software provider, maybe it's Bill AP, but what else can happen that, for example, like the agents, that can help you modernize that tech stack? And that has to be the mindset always. It's not just a one-time situation. And that can look like trying out new workflows for one client, maybe a new client, and you want to see if you can get a little more efficiency out of it, and then rolling it to other clients. It's not talking about every year turning over every process and having this disruptive flow. And you can even have a tech champion in your workforce. You know, an experienced senior accountant might understand the pain points of some current workflow, and if you give them an opportunity to try something new and then come back to you and the staff and make recommendations, that's where you're going to see a lot more opportunity to modernize your firm and bring it to the forefront. Part two being like, what is Bill doing? So Bill, having kind of defined the category of AP, we're always trying to find something new to bring to our customers. And as we've been talking about in the market recently, we are really focusing on larger clients. So established SMBs are a phenomenal fit for Bill. And we hate to see our customers go. We love it when they succeed. We want them to grow, but we want them to stay with us. So we know we have an obligation as a tech provider to grow with them. And so we're bringing a lot of new things to market that really focus on that growth journey of a small business into a large mid-market company. So I'm excited to bring a lot of those to market in the next 3 to 6 months. We're always doing updates, and so you'll hear all about it. I'm sure, Kim, maybe you and I will talk about it in the future. But, you know, for example, last year we launched our 1099 product. So now a really key feature of accounts payable, the vendor compliance, the reporting, the information reporting, that's on the platform now. That's an example. You're going to see more releases like that coming up in the next 6 months. It's going to give you more and more tools that are powerful ways to stay invested with Bill and really let your clients grow on the platform, and then, you know, limit those kind of big changes to tech stacks. So that's kind of how I think of those two approaches.
I was really excited about your 10, even though I'm not in practice anymore, I was really excited about the 1099 release and the ability to pull
Yes.
W-9. And it used to be a huge struggle for us all the time. You know, everybody waited until January to get all of their information pulled together. So I thought that was a huge advantage that you guys added. So Richard, thank you for joining me. I'm very excited to hear about what you have coming down the pipeline that you'll share with us, hopefully, as you guys release new things. But I do appreciate you being on with me today.
Thanks, Kim. Always a pleasure.